Hello, passengers, ladies and gentlemen, and little bald-headed barges. We've got the Glen Waverley line train leaving on platform 3 in 2 minutes, so you better get a wriggle on for that one. And now on platform 9, we've got the Where I Be train, stopping all stations except for South Kensington. If you want to get on to South Kensington, you're shit out of luck. Anyway, that one's leaving about now.
Yeah, mate, have you got the latest copy of Planet Stories there?
Yeah, mate, here's the latest copy for you right now. It's 4 bob.
Thanks, mate.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 5:12 p.m. Dandenong train has just pulled in. It's stopping all stations to Dandenong, so it'll take bloody well forever to get there. Anyway, all aboard.
Planet Stories was an American pulp science fiction magazine published by Fiction House between 1939 and 1955. It featured interplanetary adventures both in space and on some other planets, and was initially focused on a young readership. Malcolm Rees was editor or editor-in-chief for all of its 71 issues. Planet Stories occasionally obtained work from well-known authors, including Isaac Asimov and Clifford D. Simak. In 1952, Planet Stories published Philip K. Dick's first sale and printed 4 more of his stories over the next 3 years. The 2 writers most identified with Planet Stories are Lee Brackett and Ray Bradbury, both of whom set many of their stories on a romanticised version of Mars that owed much to the depiction of Barsoom in the works of Edgar Rice Burroughs. Morgue Ship by Ray Bradbury. This was Burnett's last trip. 3 more shells to fill with space-slaying warriors, and he would be among the living again. He heard the starport grind open, and the movement of the metal claws groping into space, and then the starport closed. There was another dead man aboard the Constellation. Sam Burnett shook his long head, trying to think clearly. Pallid and quiet, 3 bodies lay on the cold, transparent tables around him. Machines stirred, revolved, and hummed. He didn't see them. He didn't see anything but a red haze over his mind. It blotted out the far wall of the laboratory where the shells went up and down, numbered in scarlet, keeping the bodies of soldiers from all further harm. Burnett didn't move. He stood there in his rumpled white surgical gown, staring at his fingers gloved in bone, white rubber. Feeling all tight and wild inside himself, it went on for days, moving the ship, opening the starport, extending the retriever claw, plucking some poor warrior's body out of the void. He didn't like it anymore. 10 years is too long to go back and forth from Earth to nowhere. You came out empty and you went back full cargo with a lot of warriors who didn't laugh or talk or smoke, who just lay on their shells, all 100 of them waiting for a decent burial. You never catch up with the war. All the colour is ahead of you, the drive of orange rocket traces across stars, the whamming of steel-nosed bombs into elusive targets, the titanic explosions and breathless pursuits, the flags and the excited glory are always a million miles ahead. He bit his teeth together. You never catch up with the war. You come along when space has settled back, when the vacuum has stopped trembling from unleashed forces between worlds. You come along in the dark quiet of death to find the wreckage plunging with all the fury of its original acceleration in no particular direction. You can only see it. You don't hear anything in space but your own heart kicking your ribs. You see bodies, each in its own terrific orbit, given impetus by grinding collisions, tossed from motherships and dancing head over feet forever and forever with no goal. Bits of flesh in ruptured spacesuits, mouths open for air that had never been there in 100 billion centuries. And they kept dancing without music until you extended the retriever claw and culled them into the airlock. That was all the war glory he got. Nothing but the stunned, shivering silence, the memory of rockets long gone in the shells, filling up too quickly with men who had once loved laughing. You wondered who all the men were and who the next ones would be. After 10 years, you made yourself blind to them. You went around doing your job with mechanical hands. But even a machine breaks down. Sam! Rice turned swiftly as Burnett dragged himself up the ladder. Red and warm, Rice's face hovered over the body of a sprawled enemy official. Take a look at this. Burnett caught his breath. His eyes narrowed. There was something wrong with the body. His experienced glance knew that. He didn't know what it was. Maybe it was because the body looked a little too dead. Burnett didn't say anything, but he climbed the rest of the way, stood quietly in the grey metal airlock. The enemy official was as delicately made as a fine white spider. Eyelids closed were faintly blue. The hair was thin, silken strands of pale gold, waved and pressed close to a veined skull. Where the thin-lipped mouth fell open, a cluster of needle-tipped teeth glittered. The fragile body was enclosed completely in milk-pale synthia silk, a holstered gun at the middle. Burnett rubbed his jaw. Well, Rice exploded. His eyes were hot in his young, sharp-cut face, hot and black. Good Lord, Sam, do you know who this is? Burnett scowled uneasily and said no. It's Leffler, Rice retorted. Burnett said, Leffler? And then, oh yes, Crayer's major domo. That right? Don't say it calm, Sam. Say it big. Say it big. If Leffler is here in space, then Crayer's not far away from him. Burnett shrugged. More bodies, more people, more war. What the hell? What the hell? He was tired. Talk about bodies and rulers to someone else. Rice grabbed him by the shoulders. Snap out of it, Sam. Think, Crier, the Almighty, in our territory. His right-hand man dead. That man Crier was in an accident too. Sam opened his thin lips and the words fell out all by themselves. Look, Rice, you're new at this game. I've been at it ever since the Venus-Earth mess started. It's been seesawing back and forth since the day you played hooky in the 10th grade, and I've been in the thick of it. When there's nothing left but seared memories, I'll be prowling through the void, picking up warriors and taking them back to the good green earth. Grisly, yes, but it's routine. As for Crier, if he's anywhere around, he's smart. Every precaution is taken to protect that one. But Leffler, his body must mean something. And if it does, have we got guns aboard this Morgue ship? Are we a battle cruiser to go against him? We'll radio for help. Yeah, if there's a warship within our radio range 700,000 miles, we'll get it. Unfortunately, the tide of battle has swept out past Earth in a new war concerning Io. That's out, Rice. Rice stood there about 3 inches below Sam Burnett's 6'1", jaw hard and determined. He stared at Sam, a funny light in his eyes. His fingers twitched all by themselves at his sides. His mouth twisted. You're one hell of a patriot, Sam Burnett. Burnett reached out with one long finger, tapped it quietly on Rice's barrel chest. Haul a cargo of corpses for 3,000 nights and days and see how patriotic you feel. All those fine muscled lads bloated and crushed by space pressures and heat blasts. Fine lads who start out smiling and get the smile burned off down to the bone. Burnett swallowed and didn't say anything more, but he closed his eyes. He stood there, smelling the death odour in the hot air of the ship, hearing the chug-chug-chug of the blood pumps down below, and his own heart waiting, warm and heavy at the base of his throat. This is my last cargo, Rice. I can't take it any longer, and I don't care much how I go back to Earth. This Venusian here, what's his name? Leffler. He's number 98. Shove me into shelf 99 beside him and get the hell home. That's how I feel. Rice was going to say something, but he didn't have time. Leffler was alive.
Passengers, we're now pulling into North Melbourne. Change here for the Broady line.
He rose from the floor with slow, easy movements, almost like a dream. He didn't say anything. The heat blast in his white fingers did all the necessary talking. It didn't say anything either, but Burnett knew what language it would use if it had to. Burnett swallowed hard. The body had looked funny, too dead. Now he knew why. Involuntarily, Burnett moved forward. Leffler moved like a pale spider, flicking his fragile arm to cover Burnett, the gun in it like a dead, cold star. Rice sucked in his breath. Burnett forced himself to take it easy. From the corners of his eyes, he saw Rice's expression go deep and tight, biting lines into his sharp face. Rice got it out finally. How'd you do it? He demanded bitterly. How'd you live in the void? It's impossible. A crazy thought came ramming down and exploded in Burnett's head. You never catch up with the war. But what if the war catches up with you? What in the hell would Leffler be wanting aboard a Morgue ship? Leffler half-crouched in the midst of the smell of death and the chugging of blood pumps below. In the silence he reached up with quick fingers, tapped a tiny crystal stud upon the back of his head, and the halves of microscopically thin chrysalis parted transparently off of his face. He shucked it off, trailing air tendrils that had been inserted, hidden in the uniform, ending in thin globules of oxygen. He spoke. Triumph warmed his crystal-thin voice. "That's how I did it, Earthman." "Glassite," said Rice, a face-moulded mask of glassite. Leffler nodded, his milk-blue eyes dilated. "Very marvellously pared to an unbreakable thickness of 1/30th of an inch, worn only on the head. You have to look quickly to notice it, and unfortunately viewed as you saw it outside the ship, floating in the void, not discernible at all." Prickles of sweat appeared on Rice's face. He swore at the Venusian, and the Venusian laughed like some sort of stringed instrument, high and quick. Burnett laughed too, ironically. First time in years a man ever came aboard the Constellation alive. It's a welcome change. Leffler showed his needle-like teeth. "I thought it might be. Where's your radio?" "Go find it," snapped Rice hotly. "I will." One hand blue-veined on the ladder rungs, Leffler paused. "I know your weaponless Purple Cross regulations, and this airlock is safe. Don't move." Whispering, his naked feet padded white up the ladder. 2 long breaths later, something crashed, metal and glass and coils. The radio. Burnett put his shoulder blades against the wall metal, looking at his feet when he glanced up. Rice's fresh, animated face was spoiled by the new bitterness in it. Leffler came down like a breath of air on the rungs. He smiled. "That's better now. We can talk." Rice said it, slow. "Interplanetary law declares it straight, Leffler. Get out. Only dead men belong here." Leffler's gun grip tightened. "More talk of that nature, and only dead men there will be." He blinked. "But first we must rescue Crier." Crier? Rice acted as if he'd been hit in the jaw. Burnett moved his tongue back and forth on his lips silently, his eyes lidded, listening to the two of them as if they were a radio drama. Leffler's voice came next. "Rather unfortunately, yes. He's still alive, heading toward Venus at an orbital velocity of 2,000 miles per hour, wearing one of these air chrysali. Enough air for 2 more hours. Our flagship was attacked unexpectedly yesterday near Mars. We were forced to take to the lifeboats, scattering. Crier and I in one, the others sacrificing their lives to cover our escape. We were lucky. We got through the Earth cordon unseen, but luck can't last forever. We saw your Morgue ship an hour ago. It's a long, long way to Venus. We were running out of fuel, food, water. Radio was broken. Capture was certain. You were coming our way. We took the chance. We set a small time bomb to destroy the life rocket and cast off wearing our chrysalide helmets. It was the first time we'd ever tried using them to trick anyone. We knew you wouldn't know. We were alive until it was too late and we controlled your ship. We knew you picked up all bodies for brief exams, returning alien corpses to space later." Rice's voice was sullen. "A setup for you, huh? Travelling under the protection of the Purple Cross, you can get your damned almighty safe to Venus." Leffler bowed slightly. "Who would suspect a Morgue rocket of providing safe hiding for precious Venusian cargo? Precious is the word for you, brother," said Rice. "Enough." Leffler moved his gun several inches. "Accelerate towards Venus. Mote detectors wide open. Crier must be picked up now." Rice didn't move. Burnett moved first, feeling alive for the first time in years. "Sure," said Sam, smiling. "We'll pick him up." "No tricks," said Leffler. Burnett scowled and smiled together. "No tricks. You'll have Crier on board the Constellation in half an hour, or I'm no coroner. Follow me up the ladder." Leffler danced up, turned, waved his gun. "Come on!" Burnett went up, quick, almost as if he enjoyed doing Leffler a favour. Rice grumbled and cursed after him. On the way up, Burnett thought about it, about Leffler poised like a white feather at the top, holding death in his hand. You never knew whose body would come in through the starport next. Number 98 was Leffler. Number 99 would be Crier. There were 2 shells, numbered and empty. They should be filled, and what more proper than Crier and Leffler should fill them? But he chewed his lip. That would need a bit of doing. And even then the cargo wouldn't be full. Still 1 more body to get, 100, and you never knew who it would be. He came out of the quick thoughts when he looped his long leg over the whole rim, stepped up, faced Leffler in a cramped control room that was one glittering swirl of silver levers, audio plates and visuals. Chronometers clicking told the steady dropping towards the sun at a slow pace. Burnett set his teeth together, bone against bone. Help Crier escape, seem safely to Venus, and then be freed? sounded easy, wouldn't be hard. Venusians weren't blind with malice. Rice and he could come out alive if they cooperated. But there were a lot of warriors sleeping on a lot of numbered shelves in the dim corridors of the long years, and their dead lips were stirring to life in Burnett's ears. Not so easily could they be ignored.
Passengers, we're pulling into Footscray Station. Change here for the Scumshine Line train, and if you want to get to Detroit.
You may never catch up with the war again. Yes, this could be it. Capture Krier and end the war. But what ridiculous fantasy was it made him believe he could actually do it? 2 muscles moved on Burnett, one in each long cheek. The sag in his body vanished as he tautened his spine, flexed his lean, sinewed arms, wet, thin lips. "Now, where do you want this crate?" he asked Lethler easily. Lethler exhaled softly. "Cooperation. I like it. You're wise, Earthman." "Very," said Burnett. He was thinking about 3,000 eternal nights of young bodies being ripped, slaughtered, flung to the vacuum tides, 10 years of hating a job and hoping that someday there would be a last trip and it would be all over. Burnett laughed through his nose. Controls moved under his fingers like fluid, loved, caressed, tended by his familiar touching. Looking ahead, he squinted. "There's your ruler now, Lethler, doing somersaults. Looks dead. A good trick." "Cut power. We don't want to burn him." Burnett cut. Crier's milky face floated dreamily into a visual screen. Eyes sealed, lips gaping, hands sagging, clutching emptily at the stars. "We're about 50 miles from him, catching up." Burnett turned to Lethler with an intense scowl. Funny, this was the first and last time anybody would ever board the Constellation alive. His stomach went flat, tautened with a sudden, weakening fear. If Krier could be captured, that meant the end of the war, the end of shelves stacked with sleeping warriors, the end of this blind searching. Krier then had to be taken aboard. After that... Krier, the Almighty, at whose behest all space had quivered like a smitten gong for part of a century. Krier, revolving in his neat water blue uniform, emblem shining gold, heat gun tucked in glossy jet holster. With Krier aboard, chances of overcoming him would be eliminated. Now, Rice and Burnett against Lethler. Lethler favoured because of his gun. Krier would make odds impossible. Something had to be done before Krier came in. Lethler had to be yanked off guard, shocked, bewildered, fooled somehow. But how? Burnett's jaws froze tight. He could feel a spot on his shoulder blade where Lethler would send a bullet crashing into rib, sinew, artery, heart. There was a way, there was a weapon, and the war would be over, and this would be the last trip. Sweat covered his palms in a nervous smear. "Steady, Rice," he said matter-of-factly. With the rockets cut, there was too much silence, and his voice sounded guilty, standing up alone in the centre of that silence. "Take controls, Rice. I'll manipulate the starport." Burnett slipped from the control console. Rice replaced him grimly. Burnett strode to the next console of levers. That spot on his back kept aching like it was sear-branded X for the place where the bullet sings and rips. And if you turn quick, catching it in the arm first, why? Krier loomed bigger, a white spider delicately dancing on a web of stars. His eyes flicked open behind the glassite sheath and saw the constellation. Krier smiled. His hands came up. He knew he was about to be rescued. Burnett smiled right back at him. What Krier didn't know was that he was about to end a 10 years war. There was only one way of drawing Lethler off guard, and it had to be fast. Burnett jabbed a purple-topped stud. The starport clashed open, as it had done 1,000 times before, but the first time it was a good sound. And out of the starport, at Sam Burnett's easily fingered directions, slid the long claw-like mechanism that picked up bodies from space. Lethler watched, intent and cold and quiet. The gun was cold and quiet too. The claw glided toward Krier without a sound, now dreamlike in its slowness. It reached Krier. Burnett inhaled a deep breath. The metal claw cuddled Krier in its shiny palm. Lethler watched. He watched while Burnett exhaled, touched another lever and said, "You know, Lethler, there's an old saying that only dead men come aboard the Constellation. I believe it." And the claw closed as Burnett spoke, closed slowly and certainly, all around Krier. crushing him into a ridiculous posture of silence. There was blood running on the floor, and the only recognizable part was the head, which was carefully preserved for identification. There was only one way to draw Leffler off guard. Burnett spun about and leaped. The horror on Leffler's face didn't go away as he fired his gun. Rice came in fighting too, but not before something like a red-hot ramrod stabbed Sam Burnett, catching him in the ribs, spinning him back like a drunken idiot to fall in a corner. Fists made blunt flesh noises. Leffler went down, weaponless and screaming. Rice kicked. After a while, Leffler quit screaming and the room swung around in Burnett's eyes, and he closed them tight and started laughing. He didn't finish laughing for maybe 10 minutes. He heard the retriever claws come inside and the starport grind shut. Out of the red darkness, Rice's voice came, and then he could see Rice's young face over him. Burnett groaned. Rice said, "Sam, you shouldn't have done it. You shouldn't have, Sam." "To hell with it." Burnett winced and fought to keep his eyes open. Something wet and sticky covered his chest. I said this was my last trip, and I meant it. One way or the other, I'd have quit. This is the hard way. Maybe, I don't know. Kind of nice to think of all those kids who'll never have to come aboard the Constellation, though, Rice. His voice trailed off. You watch the shells fill up and you never know who'll be next. Who'd have thought 4 days ago something happened to his tongue so it felt like hard ice blocking his mouth. He had a lot more words to say, but only time to get a few of them out. "Rice? Yes, Sam? We haven't got a full cargo, boy. Full enough for me, sir, but still not full. If we went back to centre base without filling the shells, it wouldn't be right. Look there, number 98 is Leffler. Number 99 is Crier. 3,000 days of rolling this rocket and not once come back without a bunch of kids who want to sleep easy on the good green earth. Not right to be going back anyway, but the way we used to." His voice got all full of fog, as thick as the fists of a dozen warriors. Rice was going away from him. Rice was standing still, and Burnett was lying down, not moving, but somehow Rice was going away 1,000,000 miles. Ain't I one hell of a patriot, Rice? Then everything got dark except Rice's face, and that was starting to dissolve. 98, Leffler. 99, Crier. He could still see Rice standing over him for a long time, breathing out and in. Down under the tables, the blood pumps pulsed and pulsed, thick and slow. Rice looked down at Burnett, and then at the empty shelf at the far end of the room, and then back to Burnett again. And then he said softly, 100. The end.
How Joe's body brought him fame instead of shame. I can make you a new man too, in only 15 minutes a day. If you, like Joe, have money that others can push around, if you're ashamed to strip for sports or a swim, then give me just 15 minutes a day. I'll prove you can have a body you'll be proud of, packed with red-blooded vitality. Dynamic tension, that's the secret. That's how I changed myself from spindle-shanked, scrawny weakling to winner of the title, World's Most Perfectly Developed Man. Dynamic tension does. Using dynamic tension only 15 minutes a day in the privacy of your own room, you could quickly begin to put on muscle, increase your chest measurements, broaden your back, fill up your arms and legs. Before you know it, this easy, natural method will make you a finer specimen of real manhood than you ever dreamed you could be. You'll be a new man. Free book. Thousands of fellows have used my marvelous system. Read what they say, see how they look before and after in my book, Everlasting Health and Strength. So now for this book, free. It tells all about dynamic tension, shows you actual photos of men I've turned from puny weaklings into Atlas champions. It tells how I can do the same for you. Don't put it off. Address me personally. Charles Atlas, Department 312B, 115 Watton Street, where I be.
Passengers all change, you've reached the end of the Where I Be line. If you wanted to get to Williamstown, you're shit out of luck. You should have changed at Newport.